Hi, I'm Daz. Today on the bench is the National Panasonic Stereo Cassette Deck 612. This one's from about 1978, if I've got my facts right. As you can see, it's a little bit different. It isn't a top loader and it isn't particularly a front loader, but it almost is. This one's a fairly basic deck, a mechanical counter, bias and equalisation for normal, super low noise, whatever that is, ferrochrome and chromium dioxide. It's also got Dolby B. Conventional VU meters, and it looks like one lamp has gone. It has a timer standby switch, conventional controls, and if you press the door open button, that's the difference with it. It has a what I'd call 45-degree deck. Round the back, nothing much really going on here apart from your usual phonos for in and out and a din. And there's actually a switch to switch between the two. Okay, let's pop a cassette in so it goes like that. Yeah. So we basically have play, rewind isn't very enthusiastic, fast forward's better. When I first tried putting a cassette in here, I had difficulty, the interlock seemed to be stuck and I couldn't get the play button down, so I think a good bit of cleaning will be in order. So we press eject, there you go, and that's how the tape comes out. Right, kind of different, isn't it? Single screw holding the bottom on, and then it appears to slide, so I'm just going to have a look in the bottom first. Oh, and there's the deck mechanism. I've taken the screws out the side, but I haven't quite figured out how the front comes off yet. It looks like you may have to release some of the front panel controls, but that's basically the bottom of the deck. And yeah, the belt's reasonably loose. I can see gears, so I don't know how many other belts there is. This is going to be the record playback linkage, I guess, to the deck. That's nice and long. It's a nice metal deck, that's nice. It looks like things are permanently fixed in as regards to the connections. There's the mains at the back. Activation switch there. So yeah, it looks an interesting deck. Just wondering how to access the rest of it now. So the 4 screws at the side, one underneath, and taking off the record level knobs, and also there's a nut and a washer. So now I've got the front open. So there's the front. Now we can see inside. Mains transformer nicely mounted away from the deck. There's another belt here for the tape counter. This one has basically got 4 transistors plus the Dolby chip per channel. There's the record playback switch. So I'm just thinking how this is going to come out with this bit here. Actually it's 2 belts. Oh, this one's very loose, but it doesn't want to be too tight. So yeah, you've got 2 belts, so the tape counter's quite greatly extended there. What else can we see of interest? Oh, the belt goes around 2 more pulleys there, so yes, that's quite interesting. Okay, so yeah, the wiring is fitted permanently, so I'm just now going to sit here and just try and figure out how on earth I'm going to take it apart next. Here's the cam mechanism for the door. See the main switch and the headphone, so it's a proper main switch. 2 interesting things about the motor. Notice there's a transistor bolted on the outside. Interesting, this is interesting. 29th of March 84, is that the date? Because if it was reckoned this was 78, then it obviously isn't. So that's interesting to note. All the lamps appear to be tied to this tag strip here, so I should better take a voltage measurement, because I don't really have, I've got a schematic, but I haven't got really a lot of information about what the voltage is of the lamps. So it might be possible to measure one and find out what they are. I'm having a bit of fun here. It looks like it's possible to manoeuvre the deck out. There is some slack in some of the cables, but not an awful lot. So I think, oh, there we go. It's manoeuvred out. Now I'm going to have to be very, very careful. But the deck is out. And there we go. There we go. There is the deck itself. Let's zoom in. So, conventional set heads. Looks like it's an additional shield over there. Perhaps that's the shield from pickup. It looks like there's a gear and typical idler wheels making contact. And, yeah, they probably need a clean. Now I wonder how easy it is to remove this deck mechanism here so that I can get access. Looks like I'm going to need quite a clean up here. Looks like I'll have to figure out whether I'm going to unsolder the wires to give me proper access or not. I've taken some photographs. I've just disconnected the erase head and the playback, record playback head. That's from the switch here. I think that just leaves the motor to deal with now. And I've found the soldering a little bit difficult because some of the wires were wrapped up a bit, but I'm just going to disconnect the motor from here. And I can have the whole deck out and work on it because the grease looks like it might be a bit thick, which is one of the reasons I had trouble putting it into playback mode. So convenient little hole there to unsolder the power switch, because that's where the red of the motor goes. So although it didn't come out without me having to cut it still, but never mind. Okay, so there's the deck 3 on my bench. So now I can work on it, although I have noticed a problem. A little bit difficult shot here, bit of a difficult shot, but you can see how worn the head is. That's a shame, isn't it? Just look at that ridge on it. I'm having to hold it by hand, but okay, the deck with the flywheel removed, and there's a little something there. It's quite heavy. This is the fast forward, rewind, etc. mechanism. The grease seems quite thick. It's also very yuck. So that's stop, and that's what's moving in play. Old saying, in for a penny, in for a pound. There we go. So I've removed the timer stop mechanism, so I've got fairly good access now to clean up. Let's just hope I can get it back together again. Ugh, that's fairly gunked, yeah. Ugh. Right, in this one we've got this rubber wheel on the end of these gears. This does fast forward and rewind. The drive is picked up on this rubber wheel which rubs against the flywheel. And this little bit here, when it sinks in here, this is the take-up spool, which has got a clutch on, I guess. I haven't looked yet, but and that will rub onto this little bit here, which has actually got little serrations in. So that's the drive on this one. These gears here for fast forward rewind, and this bit here which is doing the take up. Here's the top of the mechanism with the eject bit removed. You can now see the idler wheel here for driving the take up. I think it might be clutched, but I can't see where there's any clutch here. Ah yes, I can. There's a clutch between the top of this spool and the bottom here, so when that one attacks it, or when that one engages with it, it'll drive it through the clutch, whereas I suspect the rewind and fast forward engage to the top part, so no clutch used there. This one appears to have the tape tension type auto stop, which is fine, but it doesn't protect you if the front spool stops, so not such a good design on the auto stop here. Got the head plate off, and there is a couple of bearings here, and they look very, very dirty, so these will need attention, a bit of cleaning. I don't think I want to take this apart anymore before I forget about how it goes back together at HI, so never mind. Pinch roller's got some softness to it, but not a lot. I think that might need replacing as well. For interest, here's inside the motor. It's a bit difficult to get to the bearing at the back and put a drop of oil on it, but I reckon this is 78. I reckon that 8 just means 78. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a germanium transistor. Obviously the later motors had the power device built onto the board, but this is a completely discrete device. Looks like this motor's done quite a lot of mileage, looking at the wear on the commutator. I wonder if there are capacitors around there. Yes, I have marked all the positions of the motor, so I put it back together. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if I put this motor back together and the cassette player went backwards? That would be tipping my luck. Another slider underneath the piano keys, and yeah, look at that. Very, very dampened. Okay, let's take another look at this auto stop mechanism. So as the tape tightens, this lever will go down, and this little cam here, there we go, and that stops it. Now I'm intrigued to find out what happens if I go into record mode with the top auto standby timer on. Let's see what happens there. Can I get it to hold down? Maybe not, but I can get it in play. So what happens is the pinch wheel is pulled away, so you don't get a dimp in the pinch wheel. So if I turn the power on the motor, what happens? There you go. The pinch wheel then engages, so that's fascinating. So that's what the auto stop does. What happens when I stop the motor? By then, hopefully it's hit the end of the tape, because it does stay in, but you can see the idea. It makes sure the pinch wheel doesn't stay engaged and put a dimp in it. One thing I forgot to notice, I had a bit of a run-in with the head shield. This screw will not move. In fact, it was turning the post round. I tried gripping it, but I can't get it undone, so I was able to slide it round to change the head. So the head is changed. Pinch wheel is also changed, so we're starting anew there. I'm going to change these belts. I'm just going to use a bag of belts and find one that fits. I think it looks like about a 1mm belt, but not too critical, so it isn't too tight and drags on the take-up spool. Right, I think I'm going to get this deck back in now. I've had enough of it. I think everything's in the right place. I had a spring in the wrong place, but I've corrected that now, I hope. So hopefully everything is in order now. Okay, I'm doing my first initial test, and I managed to blow a fuse, one of the fuses on this unit. I've discovered what it is. This motor is positive, one of the reasons probably why it's insulated on rubber. And the gap between this transistor and this bit of metal is tiny. And that's what caused the short circuit. So what I've had to do is put a washer in there, and I'm wondering if I've lost a washer, but I did have one washer there, and push it this way, which actually seems to make it more balanced. So either I've lost the washer, which I don't think I have, but that's something to watch out for. So if you bend this motor around and touch the case onto the metalwork, then it causes a short circuit. So I really wonder if the motor should honestly be mounted in a different way. I'm going to have a look to see if I can find a photograph and see if my motor has been replaced possibly, but I think it's the original one. But yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. Before I forget, with the cassette player not running, the AC voltage on the lamps is 12.4 volts. Now, head. The head measurement of the old head was between 103 and 111 millihenries, and the resistance of it was 225 ohms and 227 ohms. That's left and right. Obviously the head's worn, so I don't know how much that affects the inductance. The new head I've put in is 140 millihenries at 295 ohms, so not exactly the same, but not too far away. So we'll just have to see how that affects recording. Hopefully not too much. Also, I've done all my contact cleaning now. I've just got to put the bar back for record, and I think I'm ready to start doing some tests once I've replaced this lamp. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could change the cassette lamps for LEDs or the VU meters, but you could even have a blue cassette door, but yeah, I think I'll leave it how it is. So I'm measuring one of the cassette door ones, and I'm seeing about 50 milliamp. So I wonder if they're like 14 volt lamps. I'm not sure. At 50 milliamp makes sense, so they'd be slightly underrun. Day 3 of the tape recorder. I'm just brushing its teeth. What else am I doing? I found a 14 volt bulb, which is about the same current. I've popped it in. That will do nicely for the moment. Next things I think I want to do is do some record tests. I don't have the full manual, so setting the record is going to be a bit difficult. Of course, I've got a different head as well, so the numbers might not quite work out the same. So there we go. They look nice and clean now. It's got nice clean toothing pegs. So we'll see what we're going to do. I'm going to set the azimuth up, and I'm going to use the mono method, where you monoize the output and then just adjust for the best treble and less phase shift between the two channels. I'm sure there's better ways of doing that, but it seems to work for me. I could really do with a proper test tape, but I just put a pre-recorded tape in and just check it with that, and it tends to do me for this particular adjustment. Better not forget to do this. This is 3.5. There we go. Thickness of the rubber is 0.5 mil. I'll just gently. Okay. Stretch this out on here. What have we got? Yeah, it's really difficult this, but about 130 again. Why do they keep coming out about that? Oh well. Right. Still reading 0 just about. Right, and this is the tape counterbout that actually goes round the hub, and that's a square section belt, and that's saying about, is that 0.8? More difficult this one. Yeah, it looks like about 0.8. I thought it was quite a thin one. Anyway, just for your information, I happen to have this in my box, so that's saying the circumference. No, got the wrong one. Not that one, not the mini bulbs. Here we go. Yeah, sorry. 3.5 by 81.0, which I think is the diameter. Let's have a look. Right, got a few tapes here. There's a D. How do you get into these things? There we go. Oh, look, it didn't come off completely. Oh no. Well, at least I'm not opening really expensive tapes. I know there's a few other fellow YouTubers that have to do that. It's expensive rare tape. I bet that hurts, doesn't it? Open. Ooh. There we go. Ooh. See, that says low noise, high output. So is that what you use this selector on this D tape? Does say that, doesn't it? Low noise, high output. Okay. Goodman's. I wonder what that's going to be like. Open. Ooh. There we go. Oh, we don't normally open cassettes on this channel, do we? Well, there you go, some tapes to find. Do you know, I found this one at a charity shop, and these ones are quite good. Those ones. But what settings I use, I don't know. Right. Now fine, I wasn't recording. Yeah, I just fell over the tripod. Right, good. So at least I got some cassettes to try recording on. First problem I noticed is in record mode the meters are not reading the same, but only at the bottom. So what I'm doing here is, this is where having long fingernails helps, is just to get the sellotape off and just zero the meter. I'm trying to get them the same rather than correct, but very, very delicate operation this. Just adjusting the zero. I'm just looking for the same amount of, I've probably got my big head in the way now. Yeah, so it's just sitting on the bottom of that grayscale. That looks the same. Good. So now perhaps we might get a might read the same. Just doing a -10 recording at 2 frequencies, 400 Hz and 10 kHz. Just have a look what it looks like. Just looking at the output on the scope, this is 400 Hz. I'm using the Goodman's Chrome, and I don't think it's brilliant. The levels seem a little bit down, but and then at 10 kHz, not down too far at all. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So the biasing can't be that far off. It's only slightly down at 10 kHz, so that's good. I thought I'd go a little bit higher, and I'm going up to 15 kHz now. Thanks very much to Michael Beanies for his tip there on working at -10 instead of 0. Obviously it is a lot flatter at -10 than it is at 0, so that's not bad. It's working up to 15 kHz on the Chrome. I think that's better than I'd expect for a deck of this age. You know, wasn't to the 80s where we start to see responses up to 20 kHz. So I'm happy with that. So that's good. Brilliant. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is a test of the National Panasonic Stereo Cassette Deck 612, also known as the 612 Technics in the US, I guess. Anyway, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Got to test the microphones. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is a test of the National Panasonic Stereo Cassette Deck 612, also known as the 612 Technics in the US, I guess. Anyway, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Got to test the microphones. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Let's do a final test recording with this. I'm going to use the ferric tape, the TDK. Put it in record. that a day. Transport feels so much better. Right. I think I could probably have recorded this a bit hotter than this, but Go to Town from the YouTube audio library. Yeah, it's got a very firm sound to it, so yeah, it's got a nice bass. Now, one thing I'll say is when I plugged headphones into this, I thought it sounded a little thin, and I think one of the reasons might be is because the output transformers for the headphones are quite small. They're not very meaty compared to the Sony. I don't think it quite sounds as good as the Sony 135 that I did recently, but it's definitely a nice looking deck. I do like this 45-degree sloping deck. It's so different to anything else I've seen. We've seen some different decks that I've done, but this one's pretty good. Anyway, thanks for watching. Didn't go into as depth as I would like to have done on this, but I hope you found it interesting looking at the mechanics and how it worked. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon, and take care of yourselves.